Fight fans all over the world, it's Daddy P with Slap Happy Gorilla. What? Terence Crawford is a beast. And Terence Crawford in the media today, is really unfolding. Hey, listen. A lot of people been talking about Terence Crawford like, hey, man, this young man needs to get in the media, needs to talk, need to do this, to sell himself. Well, hey, man, he is really riding the wave after this win against Errol Spence. Listen, he really just needed this type of win, a marquee win, to be able to propel his career. And also, being with PBC hasn't hurt either. But I think that the young man has gotten this opportunity, and he has really taken advantage of it. And I know everybody heard what happened on the Joe Rogan show when he called out the winner of Jamel Charlo and Canelo Alvarez at 168. Listen, this is, man, look. Like I say, Terence Crawford is a beast. His confidence is through the roof right now, but he's always had this type of confidence in himself and in his skills. And you know what I'm saying? I think it just was people weren't taking him serious and people underestimated him, And mainly it was because of his resume, and I'll say it like this, the perception of his resume. And does everybody, now Errol Spence, I got to say it, on paper he really does have the best resume at 147, and especially leading up to this fight. And it's because of what people perceived about his resume. He definitely did beat the people with the names that were, that are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, whether it's first ballot or not, because if you look at Errol Spence's resume for 147, he beat some guys that were at the top of the division, but those guys were still like, okay, I'm gonna break it down. Sean Porter, Danny Garcia are both B-level fighters, and I'm going to tell you why. I got a lot of respect for Sean Porter. The reason why is he's a dog. He will fight anybody. You know what I'm saying? In his career, he didn't just pick and choose. He fights anybody, but when he steps up in competition, he never could pull the trigger. He lost to Kell Brook. He lost his championship, his IBF championship. He lost to Kell Brook. And that was a big fight for him to step up in competition level. Danny Garcia, the same thing. Danny Garcia became a champion at 147 by fighting Robert Guerrero. You know what I'm saying? Robert Guerrero didn't do anything to warrant being in a championship fight. He didn't do anything to deserve fighting for a vacant title. And they put him in there against Danny Garcia to fight for that vacant title. And Danny Garcia became the WBC champion. However, when he stepped up in competition to unify the titles against Keith Thurman, he couldn't pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying? So, Errol Spence best win at 147 is against the version of Kell Brook that had beaten Sean Porter, because he was the step up in competition. Now, if he had fought Keith Thurman, if he had an opportunity to fight Keith Thurman, you could say he wiped out the division back then. You know what I'm saying? But he never did fight Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman didn't give him that opportunity. And I really believe that's why he was so bitter towards Keith Thurman, is because that was the matchup to really let people know that he was the king of the division and he would have wiped out the division. Now, the names that Terence Crawford fought and the time he fought him people never gave him credit for it. He beat Amir Khan. He beat Kell Brook, but it was a version of Kell Brook that had been dominated already. You know what I'm saying? So, but he beat Sean Porter, and everybody was saying that, he needs to fight one of the guys at the top of the division to see if for the public to see if his skills were up to par against a top opponent. You know what I'm saying? And Sean Porter was supposed to be that barometer. But after he beat Sean Porter, to his surprise, everybody still moved the goalpost. Well, Sean Porter had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Still, and this is the thing. Everybody at that point counted Sean Porter as a B-level fighter. Really, you could say a C-level fighter, but I'm not going to disrespect Sean Porter. I still say B-level fighter for 147 for that era, for their era. And Keith Thurman, at the time when he was undefeated, he was that guy that Errol Spence needed on his resume. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Errol Spence fought the guys, and he gets the credit. But Terence Crawford, hands down, beat all those guys. He beat the version of Sean Porter that Errol Spence beat, hands down. And I feel like also he beats Danny Garcia. And I'm going to tell you this. He beats Keith Thurman. But because Terence Crawford didn't have these guys on his resume, nobody took him serious. And everybody would undermine his skills. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Errol Spence lost the fight against Terence Crawford. Because their team underestimated the skill set of Terence Crawford to the point where their camp was not geared towards beating Terence Crawford. Their camp was geared towards sharpening the skills that Errol Spence already had been honing in beating past opponents. You know what I'm saying? And you could tell it was like, because even after the fight, you could tell the instruction that they were giving in the corner. Derrick James was giving him some good instruction in the corner, but you could tell that the whole camp was not a camp geared towards beating Terence Crawford, because it was nothing in there you could tell they was doing to get ready for what Terence Crawford was bringing to the table. And you would hear Derrick James making fun at Terence Crawford by saying stuff like, when people was asking about him switching from orthodox to south, oh, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a part of his skill set. He's able to make adjustments on the fly. But they weren't doing anything to, like, be able to counter the stuff that Crawford had to bring, And that's why he looked like a fish out of water in that ring. It wasn't just... Now, some things that I was hearing about his training camp, like some of the stuff they were doing, and then you could see even in the, and I know this stuff is just for the media, but even in the workouts that were on the Showtime special leading up to the fight, you'll see what Errol Spence, they were saying how, we training in this Dallas heat, and one of the trainers was saying something about that too. One of the Andre Ward's trainer was saying something about that too. His name's slipping my mind right now, but he was saying something about how two different training in two different heats probably wasn't the right thing for Errol Spence to do before the fight. Because he was training in that Texas heat, and then they came to acclimate to Nevada, and then he was running the mountains and all of that, and that is a different type of heat. So when he got into the ring, of course, his legs didn't respond the same way that they usually respond when he gets in the ring, because that Dallas heat is something else, man. And then, he wasn't doing himself a favor. You would see in those episodes of that was leading up to the fight for the media, he was in the gym practicing, and he'll be sitting down in front of the fan, when he's done. You could tell he was exhausted, so people talk, the Errol Spence didn't look the same. Let me tell you, man, sports is sports. That's the reason why it's called sports. It's not, I beat all these guys, the top of the division, but then on this certain night, I couldn't pull the trigger. That's not an excuse, because Terence Crawford had a training camp just like you did. If your team didn't plan for you the way that they were supposed to and get you where you were supposed to be, that's not Terence Crawford's fault, And you making 147, you signed on the dotted line, you've been making 147 basically your whole career. So, that's one of the variables to me why I picked Terence Crawford, is because I knew Errol Spence had been making 147 for a long time, And, if anybody who follow boxing knows that when you become a champion, that's when it's a stickler for you making 147. Like when before you are in that championship mode, like at that intercontinental level and all of that, those fights, like if you go back as far as Phil LaGreco, when Errol Spence fought Phil LaGreco, he weighed in at like 149, you know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't a stickler for him to make that 47, He wasn't close enough to that title. But the closer you get to that title, now you got to start making 147. I believe when he fought Chris Algieri, he made 147. Since then, he been making 147. But just looking at since he been a champion and becoming the IBF champion, they have a lot of rules with, like, when you rehydrate before the fight, you can't weigh over so many pounds over what you weighed in the day before. You got to weigh in again the day of. You know what I'm saying? Of course, once you weigh in after that, you can rehydrate some more, but you weigh in again the day of. You know what I'm saying? So all of these rules and everything, he became champion. I think that was 2017 when he fought Kell Brook. Since then, he has been making 147. That's a lot of years to be making 147 pounds for the frame that Errol Spence has. They've been talking about, since he's been a champion, they've been talking about, man, this guy can campaign at 154. Listen, and this is one of the variables that, when you pick a fight, like when a professional gambler pick a person for the fight, this is one of the variables they look at. They don't just look at, this is my favorite fighter, I'm going to put $1,000 on him because he been beating everybody, he's the bigger, stronger guy in the division. No. He enjoyed being able to melt down to 147 and still be the bigger, stronger guy on fight night against all these other guys. But when he gets to Terence Crawford, now people are using the excuse that, he was weight drained. Nah, that's not an excuse, bro. This is sports. It's on this particular night. You signed the contract for July the 29th. We go get in there and do it. You know what I'm saying? You knew you been in a car accident before that. You knew you been making 147 pounds for all these years before that. And you got $25 million guaranteed, which they gonna make more than that. But guaranteed, you got $25 million stare you in the face. It's up to you whether you want to say, I had a bad camp, or, I hurt my ribs in camp and all that. It's up to you. You can still pull out. It's the biggest fight of your life. You can say, hey, look, I need to renegotiate. Go to Terence Crawford, say, hey, look, man, I apologize. I hurt my ribs in camp. But if you take it upon yourself to say, hey, look, I had a bad camp, this and that, and I'm still go get in there because I got $25 million guaranteed, that is your right. And that's why Errol Spence did not make excuses, and I respect him as a man because of that. But all these fans saying all this stuff, look, yeah, he ain't look like himself, but that's on Errol Spence. Terence Crawford came in there and did what he was supposed to do, and some of that stuff, because Floyd Mayweather said it best, man. As a boxer, a fighter, he say, man, when you get a certain age, you've been doing this a certain amount of years, you never go in a fight 100%. You know, because Manny Pacquiao was saying after Floyd Mayweather beat him, he say, nah, y'all ain't finna keep moving the goalposts on me. This man talking about his shoulder was hurt. He say, man, look, when you get a certain amount of years being a fighter, you not go into a fight 100%. It's a lot of fights you go into and you not 100%, because you got to recognize these guys spar all of these rounds. They practice against people, and some fighters you can even see they go into a fight with black eyes sometimes from sparring. You know what I'm saying? That's how grueling this sport is. So, you know, Manny Pacquiao beat the brakes off of Oscar De La Hoya, you know, and that was really like the beginning of Manny Mania. He had been getting a lot of fans before that, but Manny Mania really started happening when Manny Pacquiao, the fashion he beat Oscar De La Hoya. That's when everybody really started going crazy about Manny Pacquiao. But Oscar De La Hoya was weight drained. But that was his decision to sign a contract to come in and fight like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not on Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao went in there and did what Manny Pacquiao do. Same thing, man. This is a sport, bro. So, you know, excuses. When I was in grade school, you know, I was like in what? You know, in 4th, 5th grade. Every year we used to have like a little thing at the end of the year where the classes compete by age group, you know. And I used to smoke these guys running, I think it was the 100-yard or something like that. I used to smoke all them jokers. I used to smoke them. But on this particular play day, we was competing for, you know, you get the little ribbon for the year. You get the first, second, or third place ribbon. They had the blue, red, and white ribbon. You know what I'm saying? Man, I made 3rd place I smoked these same jokers all year long. But I had a little piece of I was out there playing around, and I had a little piece of smoke from off the playground in my shoe, and it irritated my foot. So it was irritating. I couldn't get the traction I usually get. But that ain't no excuse. I was smoking them jokers all year long. But when it came to the day when we, you know, doing it as a sport officially, you know, I couldn't pull the trigger. That ain't on nobody else's fault. It just is what it is. So, and you know, that's what it is in professional boxing. This is not collegiate boxing. This is not even the Olympics. This is professional boxing. These guys getting paid. And in this instance, they getting paid millions of dollars to compete in front of the world. But they doing it at a certain weight class. You know what I'm saying? They doing it on a certain day. You know what I'm saying? And they both signed a contract to do it. So all the excuses out the window. Terence Crawford is the king of the 147-pound division, and he is a two-time, listen, he is a two-time, two-weight division undisputed champion, and a champion in 3 different weight classes. You know, and now on Joe Rogan, he done called out the winner of Canelo and Jermell Charlo at 168. So now, man, look, this young man's career is blossoming, and I take nothing from him. I'm happy for him. And I'm a guy that I like Errol Spence. I like Errol Spence. Because, see, I'm a fan of the sport. I'm not a fanboy, none of that. I'm a fan of the sport of boxing. I've been following Terence Crawford's career for some time now, you know. And now, you know, and I like Errol Spence too. And he, you know, when he's going against anybody else not named Terence Crawford, I'm rooting for him 100%. But I picked Terence Crawford not based on emotion, but based on the fact that Terence Crawford has more skills in his bag. He's always been stronger than his opponents thought he was. And on top of that, Errol Spence been making 147 since 2017 with stringent rules, with that IBF. Like I said, when he became the IBF champion, they have rehydration clauses when you making weight for that particular sanction body. So he been making that weight since 2017 with stringent rules, and he's been a champ, but he's been enjoying being a bigger, stronger guy. So now I was one that was defending Errol Spence when people were calling him a weight bully and all of that, to say, hey man, the man made the weight safely. You cannot take that away from him. He had to make the weight just like all the rest of them. So whatever. But now when it backfire on him, it's not an excuse. It's just that, hey, look, he was the bigger guy, was not stronger, whatever. It is what it is. So, hey, man, look, Terence Crawford is taking advantage of this particular fight that he's won. He's been on all types of social media. He's been getting all type of interviews on these big platforms, and his career is finally now unfolding and blossoming at the age of 35 years old. So, it's late in his career, but man, look, it's a blessing for him. And now he's using this platform he has right now. He's using it to further his career. Now, people saying that it might be cap. He's clout chasing, talking about he'll fight the winner of Jamel Charlo and Canelo, and who knows. But hey, I'm proud of him. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He's blowing his name up in the media, and that's what he's supposed to do. So now, not sure what direction he's gonna go in. He could move to 154. I'm gonna tell you this: Errol Spence, and now they're saying it. Showtime is talking with sense. They saying that, and I'm gonna tell you this: I've said stuff in the past about the rematch, and maybe I was speaking emotionally, but because I like Errol Spence, man. I like what he brings to boxing. I like his attitude towards the sport and his willingness to do what he got to do. But I really would rather see him take some time before he takes this fight, and I believe Terence Crawford will honor it, because like Terence Crawford said, he gave him an opportunity, and Terence Crawford been talking like he's real grateful for it. So I really believe Terence Crawford will still honor the rematch no matter when they fought. I know it was like a 30-day activation thing where they say, okay, you got to activate it in 30 days after the fight, and they'll have it within 6 months of this fight. But all of that stuff can be negotiated, man. Errol Spence took a lot of teed off shots from Crawford, and I'm gonna tell you this: I agree with Andre Ward, old trainer, man. It's still slipping my name. I agree with him 100%. And before he said a lot of this stuff, I was thinking some of it, but he just reconfirmed it and said some things too. From a trainer standpoint, he has knowledge I don't have. I don't know about a lot of that inside stuff. But he was saying how Terence Crawford, Errol Spence said at the end of that fight that he said, oh yeah, his speed didn't bother me. I wasn't surprised by it. It was my timing was off. But what he was saying, what Andre Ward's trainer was saying was, yeah, it would seem like timing is off when you fighting a guy who has perfect timing. And Terence Crawford has always had that timing. And I've been saying this. I said this in the past video. When you look at that fight, if you look at it again, watch Terence Crawford's eyes. He was able to see everything. And to him, that's slow motion. He was able to see to be able to counter Errol Spence. He was parrying the jab. He was sidestepping the jab and coming with his own jab. And because his arms are like freakishly longer for his frame, he was able to throw the jab with Errol Spence when in range and was able to land it. And they practiced, like you say, they practiced that jab. See, that was the difference between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. His whole camp was geared towards beating Errol Spence. It wasn't just a camp that he was sharpening up his tools that he been beating everybody else with. No, his camp was geared towards beating Errol Spence. And one of the things he said they worked on, I said this before, because everybody heard Terence Crawford say it after the fight. He said they usually practice a flickering jab, but for this camp with Errol Spence, they knew they had to have a more sturdy jab because Errol Spence, you know, that's what he do everything off of his jab. So they had to take away the effectiveness of his jab. That was one of the ways they were doing it, is by throwing their own jab that was more menacing or more sturdy. And hey man, Terence Crawford, his whole team, they are students of the game. So they practice for Errol Spence. But however it is, man, this Daddy P. Like, comment, subscribe, hate, whatever. Hey, subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time it goes down. Hey, y'all tell me what y'all think about the career of Terence Crawford. I'm out of there.